Good morning, everyone. On this Wednesday in the 30th week in Ordinary Time, we're continuing our reading in the book of Ephesians. We're in the latter part of the book where the Apostle Paul gives a lot more practical advice. Yesterday we were going into what husbands and wives, their relationship. And now we're into a new section in chapter 6, verses 1 through 9. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and that you may have a long life on earth. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up with the training and instruction of the Lord. Slaves, be obedient to your human masters with fear and trembling, in sincerity of heart, as to Christ, not only when being watched as currying favor, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart, willingly serving the Lord and not men, knowing that each will be requited from the Lord for whatever good he does, whether he be slave or free. Masters, act in the same way towards them and stop bullying them, knowing that both they and you have a master in heaven, and that with him there is no partiality. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay, we're continuing on these relationships that are important if we have entered into this wonderful covenant with God that has graciously brought us in communion with God, that we are indeed children of God. Our relationships ought to reflect the relationships that he has deemed for us to be in, including children. And so this instruction is given not only to adults, but to children. Isn't that amazing? He's addressing children. So in other words, you're in mass listening, and here you're hearing this letter from Apostle Paul, and hopefully their ears will perk up and they're hearing this. Obey your parents. But there's also instruction for dad. Dad, don't be a pain in the neck. Don't provoke them. Understand your children. Understand their personality types. Get involved in them to know what will best nurture them in the faith. And then there's this other part, which for some folks might be a little controversial. Slaves, whoa. We should get rid of all slavery. And that's true. But during this time period, there were slaves. And it was done in a different way than our slavery that we had in our past history. But a slavery in which oftentimes were people who were on bad luck, had bad times. There were also folks who were taken into captivity by the opposing army and were put into a place where they were in slavery. How does a slave owner and a slave get to work out their salvation under these circumstances? And so there is an injunction given to the slaves. Whatever you need to do it as unto the Lord, not as unto what you might get, a pat on the back or something. No, it's important to do everything unto the Lord. And the same is true for masters. Act in the same way towards them. Stop bullying them. Don't be obnoxious. For many slaves, once they gained their stability financially, they were given their freedom to go on with their lives. And so hopefully that relationship is one that they would, have an enduring quality between each other. Why? Because knowing that both they and you have a master in heaven, and that with him there is no partiality. There's not someone who's above the other. No, we're all on the same level ground. Well, more practical advice that Apostle Paul gives us, and good advice, I think, for us to consider in our own lives. Stay safe, folks. Hopefully we'll see each other soon. Bye for now.